We are going to get started, calling the meeting to order. It is 7:00 p.m. The first is our flag salute. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call.
Okay, Ms. Bullenbacher is absent. Mr.
I'm here.
Chandler?
I'm here, Joe.
Online. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yep. I did not realize you were gonna be online. My apologies. Mr. Chandler?
Here.
Mr. Choate?
Present.
Ms. Compatello?
Present.
And Mr. Holst is not online, right? Yes, okay. Mr. Oliverio?
Here.
And Ms. Pacalli is also absent. And Mayor Perry?
Here.
Solicitor Corbel?
I'm here.
Engineer Keenan? Here. Director Tedesco?
Here.
And myself. We do have a quorum.
Great. All right, the first item is the consent agenda. So we have the council meeting minutes from March 27th, along with the bill list from April 10th. These are all on the OneDrive for council to review. So need a motion to approve the April 10th, 2025 consent agenda pending bill list approval by the Borough President, Manager, and Treasurer.
So moved.
Mr. Chandler,
Second.
Ms. Comptello, any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. It's 5. Right. At this time, citizens may address the Crafton Borough Council on any issue appearing on today's agenda. Only residents and taxpayers of the Borough of Crafton will be permitted to address the council. Comments on non-agenda items will be taken at the end of tonight's meeting. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. Groups of people will be required to designate a spokesperson to represent them before the council, who may speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. Council has the option to respond or not at the end of the address. The solicitor is the assigned timekeeper. Please state your name and physical address for the record. All right. I don't know the topics, or is it to start the meeting? Okay. Jan Sweeney.
Jan Sweeney.
Yeah.
That sounds better. Jan Sweeney. I have a question.
Your address. Yeah.
Oh, 25 Lincoln. This is in regards to the 2024 budget, so I thought it fit in right now. I was reading last Thursday's paper, and under public notices, I saw the advertisement of the financial audit for the year 2024. And I was a little bit confused, so maybe somebody could help me out. It says revenues 11,579,000 and change, expenditures 12,333,000 and change. And then it looks like there's a deficiency of 753,958. And I thought I had heard several times that we finished 2024 with a balanced budget. So if we did, why does this look like there's an excess in expenditures?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like?
Yeah, that is, we have a capital bond fund, and a capital bond fund is meant to be spent down. So that is not included in the balanced portion of the budget, because that is, the design of that is to be spent. So the rest of the budget is balanced, and the only thing that was used on the infrastructure projects that it was originally designated for. So that 759 includes that number.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Wozniak?
Greg Wozniak, 1773 Bar Avenue, and I have a question about selling the bricks. We're selling 1,999 bricks. I'm wondering, is this an indication that we don't need our bricks anymore? And I don't see any benefit in getting $2,000. I mean, why aren't we just keeping our bricks? So I'm opposed to selling any of the bricks. I don't know how we came up with 3,000 to 5,000. I mean, 30,000 to 50,000 old bricks. I don't know how you got that count. I mean, and the last thing is that if you're going to sell these bricks, how many bricks are going to get damaged during the sale? So, you know, that they'll probably use a bulldozer to handle the bricks, pick out what they want and dump the rest. And not really care about them. So, if someone could, let me know why we're selling these bricks. Thanks.
So we were approached by Salente, who does brickwork here has done brickwork here in the borough, and they wanted to buy 5,000 bricks. They have done brickwork before us before, and they know our stockpile, and they've been down there, and they will actually hand sort them because they want a very specific type of brick, which we happen to have. It's a color and type because they're by all different types of manufacturers. The reason we're not concerned, because we have 30 to 50,000 bricks down there, plus we're removing 2 more streets this year that will not have brick on them. So as part of the Broadhead project, so we'll probably have an additional 30,000 or so bricks down there. So we have no risk of running out of bricks. This is helping out a contractor that already does work in the borough at a very minimal risk or cost to the borough. So that's why we put it on the agenda.
All right. Anybody online, please raise your hand. See anyone? Oh, okay, Linda.
The Wozniak 1773 bar. If we sell them the bricks, are they gonna charge us for the bricks when they do the brick restoration work? And if so, what's the cost?
Well,
Wait,
yep.
go ahead. Jeff.
That's
Oh,
my
that's
only
it.
question.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought she was done. Yes, they will charge us to do bricks. We're selling them property, so they're paying for this property. This is not for brickwork in our borough. This is brickwork in Bridgeville. I think they're doing brickwork in Carnegie. So they're doing brickwork in Carnegie. And of course, they charge an hourly rate for brickwork. So yes, they will charge us if they do brickwork in the borough. We're not giving them, this is a fair market value. $1 a brick is a pretty fair price for a used brick. New bricks of the same quality go for like $1.50. So.
All right. Next up is president's reports. First item is to welcome Matt Choate to the council, your second, I guess, official meeting, but after the appointment. So I don't know if you want to say anything or.
Nothing in particular, just super happy to be here. I'm looking forward to working with the rest of the council and being here for my community.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you. All right, Banner Community. So Crafton was presented with the Banner Community Award from the Allegheny League of Allegheny League of Municipalities. And this is from the County of Allegheny, and I'm going to read the award that we received. So it says, each year we celebrate local government during the month of April, highlighting the work that elected and appointed officials do in local communities to serve their residents, organizations, and businesses. Local government, including municipal authorities, have the most direct impact on any local government on the daily lives of residents. It has been my privilege to honor the municipalities and authorities that are committed to professional development, prudent fiscal management, transparency, accountability, and proactive communications that engage community residents and stakeholders each year. Your designation as a Banner Community is a public recognition of those efforts and an acknowledgement of how fortunate we are to have an entity that provides effective, efficient, and accountable services in Allegheny County. Congratulations on this recognition. And it's signed April 3rd by Sarah Innamorato. So very good work from the staff, council, and the leadership to be awarded this Banner Community Award. Not every community gets this, and there's an application process and an auditing process that goes through for us to get this award. So it will go into the borough office if anybody would like to take a look at it. And that concludes my report. Next up is the mayor's report.
I have nothing to report tonight. Thank you.
All right, solicitor's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have nothing to report this evening as well.
Okay. All right, engineer's report, Mr. Keenan.
Good evening. First item, Broadhead Sewer Project. The update is that we're still finishing up the bid documents. We are very close. To help get things wrapped up, send over a checklist to Gateway to help answer any remaining questions they may have with these documents. Also waiting to hear back from the EPA on a question regarding applicability on some of the other requirements. Next is the Perrine Street, waiting on the property appraisal to be completed. Once we obtain that, we'll be planning on meeting again with the relative parties on the property owner side and their attorney. Next, Viewing Road, the alternatives analysis has been received with the proposed options. And we still plan on discussing those further depth at the infrastructure committee at the next meeting. Next is the C20 sewer separation. The project has started and the work is beginning along Duncan Avenue. Did have some issues that the residents had some concerns about and some issues with traffic as well. But there's some discussions with the contractor. Hopefully we got those cleared up, verifying that vehicles will not be towed. But residents should take no parking requests seriously. Having no vehicles in that lane is to help in case emergency vehicles need to get through during the work zone. And if the contractor needs to do any of their physical work itself. The project impacted roads include Steuben Street from West Crafton to Duncan, Linden Avenue from Maxwell to Steuben, and Duncan from Maxwell to Steuben. The expected completion date is November 12th of this year. In addition to this, I just want to make notice that we did receive that word that some of the water lines will need to be getting relocated along the street, and that work is expected to begin Monday. Next is the Public Works Building. Final plans have been received and reviewed from Gateway. Did have one comment regarding the vehicle lift being in the incorrect location, but other than that, looking at this with Dave, the Public Works foreman, everything seems to be okay, satisfactory to them. And rather than look out, and we are looking to go out the bid in the next few weeks, but that has been updated with actual dates. We plan on going out the bid April 24th and May 1st, with the bid opening date May 15th and an expected award date at the May 22nd council meeting. Moving along, the Steuben Linden intersection improvements. This project has also begun. They've done the sidewalks, planned or installed the foundations for the traffic poles, and right now they're waiting on the arrival of the new traffic signals to be installed. And expected completion date is May this year. Next is the 2025 sewer O&M repairs. Bids have closed, bid tabulations have been reviewed, and a letter of recommendation for each contract has been received with the lowest responsible and responsive bidders. With that said, I'd like to move to a motion to award the 2025 Crafton Borough O&M sewer repairs as follows and recommended by Gateway Engineers. Contract A, excavation, rotor-rooter for $267,265. Contract B, manhole to manhole lining, jet jack, $339,200. And contract C for spot lining, state pipe services at $127,580.
So moved.
Mr. Chandler,
Second.
Ms. Comptello, questions or discussion?
I have
Amy?
a question. We had held this last council meeting because of some clarification still being sought. Can you just update us on?
Yeah, so we, because this is, we wanted to talk to Jet Jack to see if they'd be willing to push some of these costs to the following year. And they said they would be very willing to do that if we get to that point. So we're gonna give Jet Jack probably a more open-ended timeline for this contract. So that's what we needed to work out before we did it. Because the total was above what we budgeted, so.
So from a budget perspective, where does these?
This totals to 730. Our budget is 600. And so that by Jet Jack working with us on that, we're able to move that into next year. Moves that work into next year. So that will get us caught up completely with all O&M repairs.
So can
Which is the
we
goal.
approve a lower amount or contract?
No, not in a bid process like this.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Good, thank you. Next item is the Station Street retaining wall. Again, the failing retaining wall at the corner of Station Street and Division. We did receive new options to replace the existing wall. But further discussion needs to be had in the infrastructure committee, and we plan on doing that at the next meeting. Next is the People's Gas Main work. Lindy Paving will be out paving the final restoration of streets beginning next week of the 14th. These impacted streets include North Linwood, Coulter, as well as a small portion of North Emily that's not on here, but a social media savvy post has been also sent out regarding this, in case anyone has not seen that. But that's the update with this.
Will that be the last work for that section, or is there, because it looks like the sidewalks?
There with the, yeah, so the sidewalks are done. They're gonna be doing the paving. In May, there's still some brick road repair that he's done
Right.
along North Linwood there.
I think the sidewalks aren't done yet. On Coulter,
Good.
Yeah.
I was under the impression they were all done, but
yeah, I think we should check that to make sure.
Sure.
Yeah, that all the streets and the sidewalks before we say they're done and can let go, but
okay, well, we're just under the impression that they were, but okay, we'll double check that one. The next item is the Linwood Noble Parks, the Linwood survey has been received. And the update here is that the surveyor is finishing up the Noble Park survey. We actually received that today. Have not had time to look at or review it yet, but we did receive it. Moving on to 2025 road paving and brick plan. The brick road assessment is expected to start this spring and summer, and the process will be ongoing for several months. Next is the road paving that will be included part of the Broadhead Sewer Separation Project. Roads include Belvedere, Broadhead, Coulter, North Emily, Park, Warren, and brick trench repair on Cornell and North Linwood. The remaining roads to be paid from the 2024 contract include Home Avenue, Sterrett Street, the utility work from PA American Water, Rush Way between Perrine and Sterrett, Newville Way, and Prince Alley. And the last item is the permit applications, going over the newly received permit applications for the street utility work in Crafton, road construction excavation, received from Greater Pittsburgh Plumbing, 219 West Steuben, and Duquesne Light is replacing utility poles at 6 Fountain, 807 Clearview, 75 Haldane, 328 Cornell. PA American Water is doing repair work at 604 Broadhead, 600 Broadhead, and 29 Marion Street. And they are also doing sidewalk construction and repair at 83 Promenade. No questions. That concludes the engineer's report.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Back on item D, when you talked about the C20 sewer separation, project has started with work beginning along Duncan Avenue. And you mentioned that vehicles will not be towed if they are parked in a no parking zone. Can you just clarify what that does impact though, if there are no parking signs and vehicles are left in that zone? What are the potential?
Well, if it's in the way of the contractor's physical work, they will have to eventually be moved, but I made it clear to the contractor that if there is a situation like that, you contact the borough first, unless if there's any cars that need to be moved. And we will do our best to get a hold of the property owner to do that first, but as I mentioned, no towing will be done, at all.
So like no towing will be done unless needed, unless it's
That's
actually
the
blocking.
most extreme case.
Okay,
Yeah, and this arose because this came up because they initially sent letters or posted letters to everybody on the street saying that they would post the street before they started the project. But they didn't actually post the street. What they did was the day that they were going to start the project, they put flyers on everybody's cars. And so everybody panicked, thinking that was the notification that they were gonna get, that they were gonna get towed, which is not what their intention was. But I totally understand why residents thought that, because they were told and the letter said that that it would be posted. So residents assumed that it would be on post, which we assumed as well. So we had to go back and talk to them about that, and make sure that they, handle it more exactly as they say they're gonna handle it, as opposed to changing up. So now they know they're not gonna tow anybody, basically, they're not gonna tow anybody until we get involved. So, and we'll go down and knock doors if we have to and find out whose car it is.
Okay, and you also mentioned that the purpose for having those no parking signs is not just for the construction, but also so emergency vehicles could get through. So if an emergency vehicle needs to get through and a car has not been moved, do they still have a way to get through, or is that blocking the emergency vehicle?
We don't anticipate it being a problem that people are going to park there. We're just covering that. People were thinking that they were gonna get towed in the first day, and that's what we're trying to say. No, you're not gonna get towed right away, but to respect those signs. If you don't, we're eventually gonna have to tow. Yeah,
So are the signs there now?
I
Yeah,
don't.
yeah, parking signs are on the poles there now.
Okay.
Yeah, and from what I've talked with residents, people are willing to cooperate and move as needed.
Yeah.
They just weren't expecting day of
Right.
awareness. They were expecting a few days or so in advance. So that caught them off guard, and the clause with the towing caught them off guard and got people worried. But yeah,
And it's not just residents, because we have other people that just come and park that are visiting or
Sure.
happen to be along that way who wouldn't know. So as long as we have the signs up there now, that's.
they are. Yeah.
I had a question on the paving for the items from last year. Do we know when that's going to begin? Because we were a little late last year.
I spoke with the project manager, Felino, when he expects to come out there. He just mentioned that the plants will be opening beginning of April. He didn't actually spoke to him today about another related issue, but he didn't mention when they would begin out here just yet. But I'll get with him, and next meeting I'll have a better schedule for you. For an expected date.
I had a question on letter D as well. You mentioned the water lines are gonna be moved. I assume that may require a disruption service if one of the residents have been notified that they may not have water for a certain period of time.
Yeah, it's very temporary, the repairs that are going on. Any service disruption will be that day and restored that day as well. But a notice will be sent out to the residents along there, through social media. If we have to.
Well, and they have their own system too. So they have a
Right.
call system as well that automatically calls people as well. They go through an emergency. Because they're out on a water utility, they're able to do that. So they're
Yeah.
able to send out emergency messages.
It's called their code red system, where anytime there's like an emergency, it sends out robocalls and letters to the affected residents. That will also we were told that would also take place.
And their assumption is that, for the most part, most of the laterals that need to be moved, they'll only be down for an hour at most. When it comes to, they do have one main or a couple mains they have to reshift. That might shut things off for a little bit longer, but even that will happen in the course of one day. So it shouldn't be longer than a business day. But we'll make sure we get notices out. They are starting that work next week, so we'll get notices out.
Thanks.
Yep.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Keenan. I think one thing to mention is just even with all the road construction and the excavation, there are going to be a lot of projects throughout the borough with the sewer systems, Broadhead, eventually starting C20, the road pavings, the sewer projects. And we're just going to ask residents to please be patient. It will be painful. It's going to be painful. There's going to be traffic detours. There's going to be all sorts of things going on. But in the end, it will look good, but it will be painful to get to that point, as all construction is. So I think I'll say that at every meeting going forward now, because it is going to be there. But thank you for all the work, Mr. Keenan.
With that said, just add on the People's Gas and Work please be mindful of temporary road closures as well. That gets done
Yeah,
in that time. frame.
that's, yeah, right there. Okay, managers report, Mr. Price.
All right, thank you. First update, the Trail Study Committee, the next Trail Study Committee, we did move it back a week to May 5th at 6 PM because the new, consultant that we approved is not able to meet until that date. We just got back from the solicitor today, information about the contract, so we're in the process of finalizing a contract that we can sign, and once that's signed, we will move forward judiciously into the work that they're gonna do. More updates to come, a lot of updates. There'll be a lot of public outreach in the first month. We've reached out to all the trail committee members about that, so we'll be looking at getting feedback from all the committee members on the public outreach portion. Next on the list, the seasonal public works hire list. We did trim this back a little bit from last year. We had more employees last year and we did go over budget a little bit last year. So we do have 4 people on the seasonal public works list this year. So I'd like a motion to approve the seasonal public works hire list as recommended by Public Works Foreman.
So moved.
Mr. Chandler,
Second.
Ms. Contello, any questions or discussion?
Just out of curiosity, do we know how many we had last year?
In total, we had 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're going to 4 this year, you
They
said?
were going to 4. Now 7, one of them came on later in the year. We didn't have them all for the entire year. Basically, for the entire season, we had 6.
Okay, thank you.
And we also had a lot more pool work, a lot more preparation work last year because of the pool house opening and all the additional work around that. So
Mhm.
it shouldn't be too much of a problem. And Dave actually recommended that we keep it to 4. It's easy for him to manage too, so.
Great, thank you.
We have 2 returning and 2 new.
Yep.
Coming in for this one. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor,
Aye.
opposed? Okay, motion passes.
All right, the next item on my list is something that we do every year. This is a mutual police cooperative agreement, the 2025 agreement for the West Hills DUI Task Force between 17 municipalities in the western area of Allegheny County. So with that, I'd like a motion to approve the municipal police cooperative agreement for the West Hills DUI Task Force with 17 municipalities of western Allegheny County.
So moved.
Mr. Chandler,
Second.
Mr. Choate? Questions or discussion? Can you just give a brief explanation of what it is? I've read through it, but there's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm, this is really the chief's area, so mine is gonna be fairly limited, but essentially every year when they work together when they're going to have DUI task force to basically stop drivers in high frequency areas, and they move it around. And because it requires additional officers to do that, they like to work together on this so that, because typically at any given time, Crafton might only have 1 or 2 police officers on duty. And this allows them to get together and do a much more, comprehensive job of catching DUI offenders.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
All right, and then the last item on up for a choice is the old street brick sale. Proposing to sell 1,999 old street bricks to Salente for $1 per brick. The borough, as I mentioned earlier, has an estimated 30,000 to 50,000 old street bricks down at the public works site that are not organized currently. We anticipate with the Broadhead project, we'll probably be pulling almost double that amount into our collection. So with that, I'd like a motion to approve resolution 2025-07, permitting the borough to sell 1,900 bricks for $1 a brick to the local contractor Salente as a one-time sale.
So moved.
Ms. Bollenbacher? You have a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Choate? Any discussion or questions?
I have some questions.
Sure.
Is Salenti a contractor that works with the Borough of Crafton?
We have worked with them in the past, yes.
Are they a regular
I
contractor
mean,
for us? Are they, I mean, what is their relationship with us? How
They
frequently
are,
a
they are
contractor?
PA American Water's pretty much pick for brick restoration work. They do work in the city of Pittsburgh. And they've done all the brick restoration work for PA American Water in the borough.
When did they make this request of us?
when did they make the request? Was it a few weeks ago?
Last week, I believe.
Yeah.
This week.
And they asked
Yeah.
for 5,000, but legally, we're not allowed to sell that many. We can sell up to, for a personal property sale like this, you can sell up to $2,000 worth of value. Without, having a bidding process. We suggested them that they could go through a bidding process and get 5,000 if they wanted to, but they weren't interested in that. They need these bricks right away. So we offered this option to them if they're interested. And we would not be able to sell any more bricks to them for an entire year. And even then, really, we should have another process set up for like a bidding process if they wanted to buy more.
We know that they're gonna use these bricks for actual repairs and not just resell them to make a profit.
Well, we only know.
No,
what
there's
they
an
told us.
ongoing project that they have in Carnegie that requires a special brick, manor style red brick. That's in with our pile and that's why they're rushing to get interested in this.
So that was one of my next questions. What is their timeline? Do they need an answer right away, or what is the
I mean, we don't
timeline that we
sell-
have to make a
We
decision?
have, we have no requirement to sell it to them. We were asked, we were doing this the way that it's legally allowed to do it. It brings $2,000 into the borough. That we can use to spend to fix our brick streets, maybe, put in our own kitty for that stuff. But, we're gonna have a lot of bricks. Once the Broadhead projects get down. So I wasn't concerned about overall brick quality for us. But, if you don't, that's understandable if you don't want to sell it.
The 3,000 to 5,000 bricks that we have
30,000.
or 30,000 to 50,000 bricks that we have. We have talked about these in the past years. We've talked about ideas for using them. We do have a big stockpile. They are in various stages of condition. Do we have any assessment or any kind of guesstimate of how many of those bricks are in
None.
full condition, or it's just a rough guesstimate of how many are in the giant pile and we?
Yeah, that was that was their estimate because they've been around bricks, they've been doing this work for years, so they have an understanding of, how many are generally in a big pile like that. I have no idea.
Yeah, that 30 to 50,000 came from the brick contractor.
Yeah.
And I would take his guess over,
Yeah.
anyone probably.
But that's just a raw guess of quantity. That has nothing to do with how many of those, we have no estimate of how many of those are in like good condition or unbroken, uncracked.
Correct.
Not without digging through the pile and sorting it out. Yep.
The manor style red brick, you said these are manor style red brick that they're looking for. Is that the same kind that's used on most of our roads? We have a couple of different colors. What is the?
I don't know that we have an assessment of what is used more than others. We have full roads that are yellow brick. We have full roads that are mixed. We have full roads that seem
Right.
red. I don't know, we don't have a thorough assessment of what we have. Not yet. That's one, I don't know that was necessarily a goal of the assessment that we were gonna do, that we are planning to do on the brick streets. But we could probably add that in as a general assessment anyway.
I feel like we should.
Yeah.
If that's not too much of a hassle.
Yeah, it would be loose. It would just be an estimate on
Sure.
area. We wouldn't be counting.
Right,
the number
right.
of bricks. Although we could probably take a picture and have AI do it. I bet you they would. So,
Well, they'd only see what's visible on the top of the pile.
well, no, I'm saying for the roads we do have.
Yeah.
We could take pictures of the roads we do have, and I'll bet you AI would be able to process that. So we might be able to get a number fairly quickly, actually.
Did we hear only from Salenti or did we hear from like the Borough of Carnegie?
Salente is the contractor interested in it. That's who we heard from.
It's a fairly small amount of the large amount that we have, and we have had this stockpile for a while. We've talked about uses for it. We don't have a specific use for that many. But this did come up pretty quickly and we have not heard it until this council meeting. We're down a couple of council members. We have a slim quorum. I'm just wondering if their timeline is really that pressing, or if we have the opportunity to push this to the next meeting.
I think it's pressing. I think he needs to know today or it probably won't go through.
Yeah.
this project is, yeah, ongoing right now.
But we have no, I mean, we have no responsibility to make them happy, so. Yep.
Yeah, I consulted with Dave, Public Works. He said he wouldn't mind getting rid of some as well. That means,
So
And
right
in
now
the
they're being,
spirit of camaraderie with our neighbor Carnegie, what if we have no use for these bricks and it's what, less than 10% of what we have?
It's
I
less
don't-
than, less than 4%, but yeah.
4%. In the spirit of neighborhood, I don't see why this would be an issue.
where are they stored? Down at Public Works?
Correct.
In the back?
They're just in big piles laying out in the open.
So we're storing them on the borough, okay.
Yep.
And how
Okay.
long have they been there?
Since I was hired. So since I think most of those are from Starrett Street and that area up there that was redone.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
No.
Okay, motion passes 3-2. Anything else?
Nope, that is all for me. Thank you.
Great, community and economic development.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, everybody. A few quick updates. Business Development Subcommittee meets next week on the 15th. It's our second meeting, so there's nothing to update for now, but we meet next week. Communications and Recreation Committee also meets next week. I'm looking forward to having a website discussion on that agenda with council to discuss the draft website. Item C, the rental inspection safety ordinance has been posted to all of the places that we post. Charisma has it scheduled for public notice in in the Post Gazette coming up very soon. That's on the schedule. So consideration will happen during your meeting on the 24th, and we can have questions, comments, feedback, and go from there on the rental inspection ordinance. Planning Commission, our next meeting is April 29th, 6:30 PM in this room. As all of you are aware, we had an open house on the 2nd. I saw many of you there. Thank you for attending. Really appreciate that. 43 people signed in to the sign-in sheet. There was a lot of familiar faces and a good number of new faces. I know I, for one, had some great conversations. We got some feedback, which I will develop into a memo format for Planning Commission for their discussion at the next meeting. So everybody will get to see everybody's comments that were made during the meeting. And then finally, item C, this is kind of the big news. We are now proud caretakers of 82 Belvedere, the blighted home that has been abandoned. A judge on Monday awarded us a conservatorship, which means the Borough of Crafton is caretakers for that property, and we can fix it up, clean up the property, unblight it. The plan is to put it on the market and recapture whatever investments that we put into the property and get it back on the tax rolls with a responsible owner. So you will hear continuous updates around this project. Our immediate next steps are, we're still awaiting for the judge's written order to come out. And that may have some specifics that we're not considering. But the judge approved our improvement plan, which would involve publishing an RFQ, which Jim and I discussed today with the former Dormont Borough Manager, who has gone through these processes several times. RFQ for a general contractor for cost estimates to fix it up. Public Works has it on their list, if they haven't done it already, to actually mow the lawn, start cleaning up the outside. And on Monday, myself, Jim, Larry, DJ, your building inspector, and an engineer from Gateway are going to walk through the building for an initial assessment of immediate needs and just kind of get a sense on where, the improvements really need to be invested in. So you will hear more and more about this project during council meetings, and I'm sure during committee meetings as well. And that concludes my update.
So for this, because I remember 82 Belvedere being a discussion point even before I was on council. It was on the, I think.
Demo list.
Demolition, yeah, demo list for the Shaycog, I think it was. and it got rejected or it didn't get approved for that. I think Colton, you might remember that too. But it's been on for a long time and then it kind of went silent. So I don't know if we can say what did happen to get it to move forward.
Yeah, I mean, we just decided to try to take it through conservatorship. We know that that's a much better way to deal with blighted properties than demos if you can avoid them, because anytime you get a demo, one of the things that was shared at the April 2nd meeting was a sheet of values, property values. Over the last year over the last 14 months, the average property value sale value in Crafton is $115 a square foot on average. The cost of building a new building is around $230 to $250 per square foot. So when you knock a building down, the likelihood of it getting rebuilt is very unlikely in a borough with our economic situation. So our goal is to keep them from falling down in the first place. First thing, and if they do get to the point where they're in the bad condition like this one is, take it over, fix it up, and get it back on the tax rolls. And this was especially a big win for us because this property had a $600,000 lien on it, which we were able to circumvent thanks to Steve's work and his team. So we're able to, because that essentially would mean that it would never sell. And it would always remain a blighted property because of that lien. And so doing this process allows us to sell it without that lien and put it back on the tax rolls.
Who was the owner?
I believe it's an old LLC, if I remember correctly, that abandoned it.
It was rented.
That abandoned it?
Yeah, it was rented to, our understanding was that, because the chair of the planning commission is the neighbor of this house. So he knows a little bit about that ownership, but it had been rented for the last 10 years by an elderly person who then ended up passing away, and that's why nothing has happened to it since.
Were the liens, tax liens, or were they mortgage liens, or?
This was actually a court lien. You never have a lien that big unless it was and we don't know why, but it was probably that LLC got sued for something, and that was the property they could attach it to. And so they attached it to, even though that property would never sell for, even if it was in perfect condition, would probably not surpass 350. Yeah, so you're never gonna get the money back.
Yeah, I suspect that it was a judgment lien that was probably attached to multiple properties that the LLC owned, and they just waited till they hit. And this LLC, we think, operated in multiple states. So who knows where it may have been satisfied, and they just didn't come back and satisfy here. So when the judge signs the order, it'll be.
We are seeing lots of, well, not lots, but a few homes in Crafton being rehabbed and put into good use and now up for sale. I know 3 on North Linwood are for sale that were all rehabbed and look beautiful. And they're going for a lot of money. And those are the things that we want. We want, not to have these blighted properties out there that are just causing rodents and a lot of the resident complaints that we get all the time about those things. So it's good. Okay. Anything else for Mr. Tedesco? Great. Thank you. Okay, standing committee reports, Finance Administration, Sustainability. Mike is out. So Ms. Perry, anything to report?
We'll have a meeting this coming Tuesday. So I don't think there's anything new to report since our last meeting. Thank you.
And use, Ms. Compitello.
Hey, well, we have our next Infrastructure and Land Use Committee meeting next week, so I also have no new updates since the past council meetings, but some standing just reminders and status reports that we've been giving. We did receive funding for an energy audit. This is for use on our borough municipal buildings. This was funding that we received through the state of Pennsylvania. We already received that grant and the energy audit is underway. I don't have any updates on it, but it was underway 2 council meetings ago. And
yeah, we haven't received an update. We have to file an update with the state for the Moore grant itself, but other than that, we have not had an update.
We also shared a few months ago, and we've been giving status updates on this. We received a $325,000 grant from DCED. So this is also a state, Pennsylvania state grant. This is for multimodal pedestrian improvements in our downtown area. We requested about 10 times that, and we received this amount. This requires no match, so it's overall a win for us. It was something that we found out about rather last minute, put together a grant application, required no funding from us, no match amount from us. So we're very happy to have gotten any amount, but we did get a lot less than the maximum that we requested. So Mr. Tedesco and Mr. Price have been working on a kind of an assessment. We can only use that grant for the things that the grant covers and that we included in our initial grant application. So they have been doing a kind of revised assessment of all of the things that are included in that and looking at what can be covered, what the menu of options are, and the pricing associated to give us a menu of options for things that we can accomplish within the much lower amount that we received. This is primarily meant to be used for construction and installation. So we have to use it on, mostly actually building and purchasing items. So they have put that menu together. We'll be discussing that in the infrastructure committee next week, just to address any clarifications or additional refinements or research we would like. And then that will be coming to council to review what our options are to use that grant. We do have some time to make a decision. So it'll come to council next, and then based on, what our options are and whether we even have options, or with this, much smaller amount, or are our options pretty much straightforward. We have discussed, once this comes to council, talking about maybe putting a survey out to the public. The initial grant that was submitted talked about, fairly high level things like pedestrian improvements, crosswalk improvements, some road improvements, which are unlikely to be covered in the smaller amount that we were awarded, things like wayfinding, lighting, things like that. And then the third item is the PRT bus service update. So also here again, nothing has really changed, but we'll give regular updates on this. This came out a couple of weeks ago. PRT serves Crafton with 5 different bus lines. They are having a funding crisis. They published a couple of weeks ago a report, a proposed plan for reduced service if they do not get additional state funding or county funding or other funding. That's on them to find their additional funding sources. But they are currently lobbying the state while the state puts together their annual budget due in June. They are hoping to get enough funding to continue service as is, but they did put out a report announcing that if they can't afford to continue, they will be cutting service. Crafton would lose 4 bus line service on 4 of our 5 bus lines. So we are continuing to update our residents on that. We also, if anyone is interested in this topic, we're happy to share resources. You can certainly lobby our state representatives if you would like to support continued transit funding. And we'll just continue to share with our residents any updates that we hear. And that's all for my committee.
Thank you, Ms. Costello.
Can I make a comment about that? I just wanted to mention that at the Allegheny League of Municipalities conference this past weekend, we had a lot of state and county elected officials, and there was a lot of discussion, a lot of pressure, and a lot of commitment on our legislators' side to be working for finding additional funds. At the same time, there was a lot of realistic discussion about the trickle-down effect of funds being pulled from federal that trickle down to state and county and then to local municipalities. But it's on everybody's lips, and everybody's trying to move forward to make sure this doesn't happen.
Do you know the impact of losing 4 lines? How much our commuters, how many be affected by that on a daily basis?
We can certainly find that information in Crafton. If you're speaking about Crafton specifically, PRT has a massive amount of information on the number of riders at each stop on each line each day. Economically, regionally, they certainly have data available as well. They have a whole website that they have created, a whole web page under their PRT webpage dedicated specifically to this issue, where they share more information about that. And yeah, if there are any questions, specific questions, we can request that information, and it's fairly easy to get, and PRT has all that data. Regionally, it would be massive. It would be a massive impact on our economy.
I can also pull stuff together, from, they have good, data on their website that's in addition to ridership data and whatnot. And so we've put out some information about this, I think on Savvy and I think on Facebook. We can do more of that with more directed information about Crafton so that people can have that when they call. If they're interested in calling and lobbying. Because that was one of the things that, backing up what Coletta said as well, one of the things that they said is, if you know friends or family in other areas of the state, that where you can get those elected officials too, because the elected officials here are all on board. But they don't represent a majority of the people in the state legislature. So how do we also get other folks to do that as well? And I know SEPTA and Philadelphia is dealing with the same issue, and they're also lobbying.
So is Westmoreland. Every transit agency in Pennsylvania is affected by this. But yeah, the number one message to share with our residents is I know that news made a lot of waves in the community, and it certainly will impact us if that is the scenario that comes to pass. But for now, it is a worst case scenario that PRT has put out. It is not happening yet, but if you don't want it to happen, the biggest message is tell your legislators, tell the state, tell the county, write letters of support or reach out to your representatives. Beyond us, we also can talk about submitting something on behalf of this municipality. But for everyone who's read the news about potential cuts to PRT service, transit service, that is currently, it is a scenario that is the worst case that will come to pass if they don't get funding. It's not yet reality.
I think what was said was that for 10 years, they had a certain amount of funding. I don't know if it was federal, state, whatever. State, it ended, and then the ARPA funds kicked in. So they were able to maintain with those ARPA funds. And now that all of that's gone, plus wages have increased dramatically as, the drivers and all the mechanics and everything, plus the economy, inflation, and COVID happen with less ridership. But they don't get a majority of their funding from the people that just go and pay every day. It's more of this state fund.
Those are like 10%
Yes,
of their revenue. Yes,
So
we
it's not-
subsidize roads heavily. We subsidize transit less. And they need those subsidies. It is a service. It doesn't function without getting public funding.
It's also important to note that that funding, even though it's supported, it goes a long way to helping prevent wear and tear on roadways. It does a lot of additional, it is one of the reasons that parking downtown is not $40 every day you go down to park instead of $20. Because when you don't have transit service at all, it dramatically increases the cost of everything else.
Oh yeah,
So
there's no way that we
supporting
could have
transit
sports
is
games
incredibly
without
important.
the T service. They don't have enough parking spaces.
Right.
Okay, great discussion. Thank you, Ms. Costello. All right, communication and recreation, Ms. Bolenbacher.
Thank you. Just want to remind everybody, this Saturday is our cleanup, shredding, and medicine take back day. That starts at 8 a.m. down at Crafton Park. There will be dumpsters. There'll be people who'll be taking your paperwork for shredding, as well as being able to take back certain medications. From 9 to 12, we will have our community cleanup that will begin at the Borough building at 9 a.m. Just show up. They'll provide you with any supplies needed to help clean up the neighborhood. Next up is our Arbor Day and dedication to Betsy Martin on Saturday, April 26th. That's going to be at 10 a.m. And that'll also be at Crafton Park. And it's just what it sounds like. We're going to be recognized for the 36th year as a Tree City USA town. And we're going to plant an oak tree in memoriam for Betsy Martin. Saturday, May 17th is our garden party. It's our 10th anniversary. So we are going to have a VIP cocktail hour from 12 to 1. with hors d'oeuvres, sangria, and live music. Tickets are needed for that 1 hour VIP. They're for $25 at 20 if you're a senior. Then from 1 to 4, it's an open event for anybody. It's free for anybody who would like to come. There'll be garden tours, cooking and seed sowing, demonstrations, and some things for the kids as well. So come on down. Our other upcoming events that I will have more detail with are for as we get closer as our Independence Day celebration on Friday, July 4th, our Fall Fest celebration on Saturday, September 27th, our celebration of lights on Saturday, December 6th, and our holiday house tour on Sunday, December 14th. We do also have a new community event that's happening this Sunday, I believe. It's the Boy Scout Pancake Breakfast. That is from 8 to noon at our community center here at the building, at the Borough building. The tickets for that will be $10 for adults, $8 for seniors, and $5 for children under 10. And if you bring a bag of unexpired food, unexpired being the important term there, you will receive $1 off of your ticket. They do have a Facebook page, our Boy Scout Troop 148. You can go there for additional information. We have our ongoing events such as coffee, creativity, and community every Saturday. We have our yoga every Monday. There's a whole list of them. I've mentioned them quite a bit in the last few meetings. So again, in the spirit of kind of moving things along, I'll just remind you that they are on our website, Crafton Borough website. You can go to our calendar and it will show all of our monthly events. I will bring them up in detail periodically throughout the year, but I just feel like every week is not really necessary. But come anyway. But I will bring up, because I do believe that this is important, I'll bring up every meeting, is the need for volunteers. So if you could please, if you could spare any time, just go ahead to our website, to the Crafton Borough website, and email our rec board. Let them know that you would like to volunteer, and they will reach out to you with opportunities. You are by no means required to volunteer when they request, but they'll just let you know when the opportunities arise, and you can let us know if you can help. Any help is incredibly appreciated. Our summer newsletter will be coming in June, and we are currently collecting the articles. Unless anybody has any other questions, that's it for my report.
Thank you, Ms. Bollenbacher. Board Commissions recruiting, Ms. Compitello.
Sure. Well, as always, we have a series of boards and commissions. The applications are always available on our website. You can apply at craftonborough.com/commissions. And all of our boards and commissions, including the current members and the terms that are being served and upcoming potential vacancies are all posted on that website. Some of the highlights of things that are available now or available soon. We have a few current open positions. For the Civil Service Commission, we have one alternate seat. This is for a 6-year term that would be expiring on February 1st of 2029. We have several Planning Commission seats. The first one available due to a resignation will be expiring on April 13th of 2026. And then 2 additional Planning Commission terms, full 4-year terms, are also available, and those will be open beginning April 14th, 2025. So all in all, we have those 3 Planning Commission seats. We have been taking applications. We have been going through the interview process. And we are keeping these open until their end dates. So those are our current open positions. And then as well, we also have an upcoming position on the Zoning Hearing Board. We have 1 3-year term, 1 regular 3-year term, and also 1 alternate seat. Both of those will become available beginning January 1st, 2026. So you can always apply in advance, but you can also keep an eye on it and apply once it comes closer to it. You know, if you're interested, keep that on your radar. We give these updates at every council meeting, and you can prepare your application as it gets closer to that time if you're interested in the Zoning Hearing Board. And that is all for the boards and commissions today.
Thank you, Ms. Compitello. Council of Government, Ms. Bollenbacher.
We have not had a meeting of the COG since our last council meeting. So I just need to announce that the next COG meeting will be next Thursday, April 17th at 6:30 in Carnegie.
Great, thank you. So community announcements, we've gone through some of these already. Our next council meeting will be in 2 weeks on Thursday, April 24th at 7:00 PM. Cleanup day, all the information's here on the agenda. And again, this is the shredding and medication take back event are being sponsored by our state rep, Dan Deasy, and also our state senator, Wayne Fontana. In addition, we'll have dumpsters there for residents, for larger items, bulky items, and they're listed here and on the website. In addition to the cleanup day, which will start at the Borough building with supplies provided to go around our streets and clean up all the things that happened over the winter. Real estate tax collection. So Jordan Tax will be here in the community center on 2 days. That'll be Wednesday, April 23rd. So next Wednesday, no, 2 weeks at 9 to 12, and also on Wednesday, April 30th from 1 to 4. And these are for the 2% discount. So these are the real estate taxes. They aren't due until, I believe, the end of May, but this is for the 2% discount. Arbor Day celebration, we did go over that. And again, that's Saturday, April 26th at 10 o'clock in Crafton Park. Pool passes already are available on the Crafton website. Pool opens on May 24th through September 1st. The passes are available for Crafton residents at the resident rate and Carnegie, Ingram, Roslyn Farms, and Thornburg residents at non-resident rates. Rates for child, and the rates are for child, adult, senior, or family. So you can get those online now and get ready for the pool. We did have, I think, one of our largest attendance of pool purchases of pool passes and attendees last year. So get them soon. And then the Boy Scout troop, again, we mentioned this pancake breakfast on this Sunday, April 13th. They'll have lots of items and it'll be here in the community center. Any other announcements for anybody? Okay. Public comment. At this time, citizens may address the Crafton Borough Council on any issue. Only residents and taxpayers of the Borough of Crafton will be permitted to address the council. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. Groups of people will be required to designate a spokesperson to represent them before the council, who may speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. Council has the option to respond or not at the end of the address. The solicitor is the assigned timekeeper. Please state your name and physical address for the record. So for anybody here, just raise your hand and then we'll go to the folks on Zoom. Mr. Wozniak.
Greg Wozniak, 73 Bar Avenue, Belmont.
Yeah, there you go.
Greg Wozniak, 1773 Bar Avenue. I just wanted to make a comment about the April 2nd meeting for the Planning Commission. There was another breakdown in communication to the public. And I think that had an effect on a meeting. People were expecting a meeting with a facilitator, and there was not a facilitator there. It was open table. So hopefully next time we won't have this type of breakdown in communication. Please pay attention to that. And then the other question I have is about the conservatorship. Who owns the building during conservatorship?
It's still the LLC.
Wait, Mr.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, let
Okay,
them
so
speak
here's my
through all the
question.
stuff, yeah.
Who owns the building during conservatorship, and what happens if that the borough gets into that building and finds out that the building is not worth repairing? And does it go, what happens in that case? And then I have another question, is whether or not Jim, you said Calente had done work for us already, as we hired them already to do, but
They've done work in the borough.
oh, okay, so it's different than what okay, so, all right, thanks.
What was that last question? Nothing.
No, Celente.
Okay.
He answered, I thought he originally said that they did work for the borough, but they didn't, so.
Okay. Okay, so we can address the two. One is the April 2nd meeting. And the other is the I can't.
Conservatorship.
Somebody else say that. Sorry. Who owns it and what happens if it's not worth repairing?
Sure, conservatorship.
Or April 2nd. Yeah, April 2nd, just really quick for everybody. I think this was mentioned at the last Borough Council meeting. But when Jim and I met with the facilitator the day after the last Planning Commission meeting, we went into that conversation fully prepared for a facilitator style forum. And the facilitator essentially fired herself. And she said, look, you guys have structured meetings really 3 times a month between 2 Borough Council meetings and the Planning Commission meeting for zoning related issues if people want to talk about them. So she recommended an open house format to allow for diverse voices to be heard that may not want to get up on a mic in front of a crowd full of people, and just to speak more casually about zoning and whatever questions came up. So you're right, it was last minute and we could have communicated it better. But the facilitator made a compelling argument, and so we pivoted at the last minute.
Yeah, communication would have to work.
Mr.
Just trying to clarify. So the problem was with the communication that, you know, that it was announced during the Thursday meeting here. And then on Friday, that there was a change in the Savvy Citizen, but it didn't say what that change was. And then on that weekend, it was still put in as a facilitated meeting. So I'm just talking about the communication, not the fact that it was changed. But the communication was that it was still, even after it was announced during the meeting, that it was going to be a table discussion or a table, then it still came out as being a facilitator even up till a day or so before the meeting. So that I'm just asking that you guys pay attention to that and don't have people come to a meeting thinking it's one thing and it's not.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Fair request. Conservatorship. The LLC still owns it until the judge approves a property transfer, at which point, as we mentioned, all liens are cleared. If there's clouds on the title, those are cleared. So it's a fresh start for a new owner. Borough is just the caretaker, which means we can enter the property, we can improve the property. And there's a whole section of conservatorship law in the statutes, if you want to look that up, that outlines everybody's responsibilities. So if we walk through and we discover that it's structurally deficient, it's gonna, it's better off not spending the money on investment, then we look at probably a demolition is what it comes down to. So this initial few weeks of figuring out what needs to be done with experts walking the facility, the building, critical few weeks.
And who becomes the owner after demolition of the property?
Still the LLC?
So we all see, yeah.
Some notes. All right. All right. Anybody else? Mr. Marks?
Hey, all, Justin Marks, 31 Oregon. Just a few small things and then one conversation I've had. When we're talking about different properties, streets, whatever, it'd be super helpful if we'd like bring up a map or a street view or something, just so folks know what we're talking about, right? I had to sit here on my phone and look up 82 Belvedere. Minor detail might help clarify some things while people are listening in. The bricks, after hearing that it was going to be used for Carnegie, I guess I'm surprised we aren't just considering giving, it's already voted on, but didn't consider just giving the bricks to Carnegie, skip the middleman, skip the possibility of it getting marked up, etc. Finally, I think stuff on the agenda aside, on Tuesday, I had a chance down at the Crafton Park to run into the Thornburg mayor, Mr. Tom Mackin, super nice guy. We talked a little bit about how closely our towns are tied together, how residents there come to rely on our shopping center and our parks and our pool and all the other great amenities we have. They seem to have some interest in the zoning stuff that's going on, because obviously residents there have a vested interest in what's going on in Crafton. I also came to find out that they aren't part of the Char West Cog, so we don't regularly chat with them in any sort of like formal manner. So I think it might be interesting to maybe extend an invite over to either the mayor or the council over there and see if maybe we can talk with them in a joint fashion. But yeah, that was it.
Did you say that was Thornburg or Roslyn Farms? I'm sorry.
Thornburg.
I mean, on that point,
Yes.
I think neighboring communities would be great
Sure.
to see more joint, conversations and all that. So,
I might just mention that since the 80s, Crafton Police Department has been providing police coverage to Thornburg, and that there is a very cordial and regular relationship between the police department, the police chief, and Mayor Mackin, as well as myself. But other opportunities certainly would be welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I also wanted to point out that we have also had on the borough side outreach to them, and the borough manager actually worked with them over the past year to extend an invite to them and then develop the agreement and pursue a joint grant, which we were initially unsuccessful in the first round, and so we'll be resubmitting that this year. So that outreach has happened, and there has been communication and partnership and collaboration.
Yeah, I talked to Mr. Mackin fairly often. And we are possibly going to apply for that again. Safe Streets just came up. So that should be open here soon. So, but I don't know what the end date is yet, so.
And the last, I think, was the SHACOG, and that's really up to their council to make that decision to join the SHACOG.
Correct.
Yeah.
You can either join SHACOG and we kind of are on the cusp of, we could be in either cog.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that's an open discussion that could happen.
Okay. Anybody else? Yeah. Anybody online, please raise your hand. All right, Mr. Sheets.
Cody, you're hot.
Everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, Cody Sheets, 152 Promenade. Wondering what the average cost is to the borough in regard to conservatorships before construction begins, including like legal fees, filing fees, costs, stuff like that. What's the kind of ballpark range there? Also, have a question/comment about Ewing Road. In 2018, when the road was paved by Gateway Engineers, prior to that, when the Department Works, when Public Works was working on the road to sort of level it out and stuff like that, there was talk of a DGLV grant with Gateway somehow assisting with that. And I don't think that ever got done. I think Coletta was the only one around at that point. I don't know if any of you can give any insight on that as to like why that grant wasn't sought out, but also was wondering if it can be sought out now since we're doing it in-house, or potentially doing it in-house according to Larry. Is there a possibility of applying for a DGLV grant this year, or would that be expired and would we be unable to do so to fix this year? Thanks.
Mr. Sheets, what was the grant name?
DGLV, which stands for dirt, gravel, and low volume roads.
Or-
And it's a Pennsylvania grant that provides funding for road maintenance on low volume public roads.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Sheets.
Yeah, so in 2018, they did apply for that grant and or met with a grant PM and were not permitted to, they either were not permitted to apply because it didn't meet the requirements of dirt and low volume road. I think the CIT traffic drives that road well above what is considered a low volume road. And so they weren't, and Gateway was not the engineer that approved that work. That was a separately hired engineer that year alone. I think it was KLH Engineers was hired specifically to do the paving project. And this is something that I've been told by numerous engineers, and that is you should never shop around for an engineer to do one project. Because if you tell an engineer what answer you want, they will give it to you if you pay them enough. And we don't know that that's what happened, and I'm not accusing them of that's what happened, but the results of them doing the work obviously has led to it already subsiding. So clearly it was not an advisable project at the time. But that was not Gateway who did that project. That was another engineer, and I think it was KLH. But I can double check that to be sure.
So did we apply for the grant?
We did not. Well, I don't know that, I don't know if Crafton did or not. I know that in 2017 or 18, they reached out and there was documentation saying that it was not a valid, essentially, we couldn't apply for it because we didn't qualify.
Okay.
Because it really is for dirt roads in rural areas, but a lot of times municipalities are able, like us, are able to use it for roads that are less used. But I think they must have found something that made it so they couldn't use that. I'm not exactly sure why it got denied, but that's my understanding. So I don't know whether it was applied for and denied, or just that they reached out to the PM that's in charge of the grant, met with them, and they said, don't apply for it. I don't know which happened.
Is it something we can look into, or we would?
I can see if I can find
Okay.
more information. I might even be in the documentation that I read. I just don't recall it specifically. I just know that we didn't get it. Yeah.
Okay. And Ms. Perry, do you have any information on it at all?
Certainly not anything that I can draw on from my memory at this juncture.
Okay. Okay, then the other question was the cost of the conservatorship.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'll jump in. So this was done late last summer. It was a new process for me. I developed the initial bulk of the paperwork, so probably an over under of 40 hours on my end. And then handed it off to the team at Steve's office, Anna specifically. She made it all legal and looking good, and she brought it over to the finish line. So I don't want to speculate on how many hours Anna spent on it. But you know,
That's right. $2,000-3,000 to do that, get it ready, and then whatever time was spent preparing and going to court, so maybe another $1,000.
Yeah.
So 3,000-4,000 from my office.
yeah, about 40 hours for me. And that was the first one. If there's another one, it'll take far less time.
Right, yes.
Cool. Anybody else online, please raise your hand. All right. Seeing none, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate the time tonight.